Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for this Q&A for Fuck You, Seth. I hope everyone has enjoyed the film, and please remember to rate this film. I want to start off by thanking the sponsors of this film, the Mocha Foundation and Mary L. Bianco, and the Films for Good through Bob and Christine Williams, as well as a thanks to our major sponsors. We're excited to have director and writer Barry Galprin and actress Holly Curran with us today. Thank you for joining us, both of you, for our Q&A.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
I just want to kind of first off say that I love the pace of your film. You really, both of you guys, as well as your crew, really bring a whole character through a whole journey, and they're just in the room by themselves. That's what I wanted to say first of all. But second of all, I want to know, who hurt you, Barry? Because you capture the voice very well of someone going through turmoil of having to talk with their ex. Where did you grab this inspiration from?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm by nature just a super neurotic person, as I learned through growing up. And I got to a point in my life where I was like, well, I'm going to start talking about it rather than kind of trying to hide it. But what was cool was that Holly and I had done another short film together, and I loved working with her because she's amazing and wonderful. And what was cool on this particular one was I was able to kind of bring her the pitch for the short very early on and have her kind of give her input and work on it and kind of steal a lot of pages from the way Richard Linklater works with bringing in his actors and all that kind of stuff. And so in this particular thing, it was actually Holly's idea to make, because originally in the very, very early pitch, it was like a girl going out to see a friend that she hasn't seen in a long time, and kind of neuroticism that comes with that. And Holly was the one who was like, oh, it should absolutely be an ex, because that gives you so much more stakes and emotion and all this history that they have together. So yeah, it was an amalgamation of my neuroticism and Holly's idea to make it be an ex-boyfriend, kind of melded really perfectly together.
All right, yeah, and well, with that, you display it extremely well. Are you drawing from any emotions from the past, or are you just also a very neurotic person?
I think both. I think that anyone who's gone through a breakup, and at some point we were all in relationships, we all experience heartbreak, and the idea of seeing this person again and what what it does to you. Like, yeah, I want to look like I'm together, I've moved on, I'm fine, and maybe I'm not so fine. And I think that it was just a really fun idea to play with. And when Barry brought it to me, it just made perfect sense. And I think, and also when Barry brought it to me, I think it was like seeing a friend who is more successful than you, and you're trying to be that person who's also so like, I'm doing fine, I'm great. And I was like, yeah, what if it was an ex? And so I think that it just worked for both of us when we were kind of playing with the idea with each other. So yeah, we kind of just built that off of our own personal experiences and what we like to play with as filmmakers, actors, all that fun stuff.
What was really cool is that Holly and I, the entire time while making it, my biggest thing was like, I want this to feel genuine, to like this, because I definitely do this whole thing where I kind of talk to myself and kind of, mentally prep before I go out or something, especially if it's like a meeting with somebody of that sort. And so the whole time I was like, Holly, let's just make sure this is really genuine. Like, does this feel real to you? Does this, let's dial it back if it doesn't, and this and this and this. And one of the most rewarding things that we've seen from a multitude of people who have seen it is how many people are like, oh, you captured that feeling really well. You're I was so happy to see that, because I didn't realize, and I was like, it was weirdly comforting to be like, oh, there's a lot of people that not only relate to this, but really feel like we hit it right on the head of what it's like, to have all those emotions happening at once. So that's been incredibly rewarding, and just a really cool thing that's come out of this short is just a lot of neurotic people being like, me too,
Yeah.
So that's just been really that's been nice and comforting and great. I'm really, really proud of that.
I mean, everybody's freaking out behind closed doors,
yeah,
so
exactly,
I can see that.
Exactly.
Yeah, I also really like the way that you guys, you filmed it where you're getting the most intimate parts of the actress, but also the actors, is whoever's playing Seth. You got the close-ups of his lips, his eyes, his hair, his hands, and so is it her remembering these things, or is it kind of a way so that the audience knows oh, these are the intimate parts of him while we're seeing the intimate parts of her?
Yeah, I mean, I could just give my interpretation. I'm curious to hear Holly's as well. But yeah, I mean, for me, it was definitely the first one was definitely more like him, her remembering those like really intimate details. Mostly because like again, if you have the history with a person and you come out of a relationship, it's like you remember those like weird little things. Like it's like, oh, he had like a freckle on his arm and like this and this, and you just remember these like incredibly like intimate details. And so I just wanted to kind of keep reinforcing that. And it's also, it's also not too shabby that the guy playing Seth is a handsome dude and is nice to look at, and he didn't have too many problems just sitting there while we shot like incredibly intimate close-ups of him. But yeah, for me it was a way to like get into the character's head of like these kind of snippets of memories. And it's funny because the more we kind of shot it, and we figured this out I think more in post than while we were shooting, but there was almost an argument that there's like moments within those snippets where it could be from a specific memory with them. It's not exactly her remembering him just at like his face or his close-ups or whatever, but it could be a specific kind of thing. And almost to an extent we use it where when she has that moment where she's like, you're apologizing, it's like the way that close-up kind of ends up being, it's like there's almost an argument for like, well, maybe that's like her imagining what it'd be like to tell him that, and kind of have that conversation with him. And so there's a lot of interpretation. But yeah, that was just mine. I loved it. Yeah, Holly, what about you?
Yeah, I love the snapshots of like, I feel like when you miss someone or something, things come to you and they hit you sometimes, and you don't even realize the things that you'll remember later on. And so I think that's what it was for me when I watched it at first. But also it's fun to play with the idea of like, is this when she sees him again? Is this when are these little snippets that she's going to pick up on in the 5 minutes it's taking for her to get ready? So I think it's totally open to interpretation, but yeah, it's great to just show off Seth, and his real name is Seth.
Yeah.
Oh, so the title didn't come first. It came after casting.
Yeah, it kind of came at the same time because like I wrote it and then I was like, oh, it'd be perfect for this is my buddy Seth because he's a handsome dude and a great actor. And yeah, so it's just funny. The funniest part was sending him that script and being like, hey, want to be a secondary character in this thing that's called Fuck You, Seth? Like, do you want to and all that stuff? But yeah, he was great about it and he's just a great guy. But yeah.
How long did it take for you to shoot this film?
We shot it in basically one day. But what's really cool about it, and kind of going to Holly's note too, is like I love like improv, and I'm a big like fan of improv, and I have improv training and all this kind of stuff, and I love actors who like to play. And so a very large portion on set was like, me behind monitor just yelling ideas to Holly, and Holly kind of trying them and getting different jokes and different takes and different, just ideas that we were kind of throwing out. And some like the best moments in the movie came from those little, random things that we threw out and stuff. And so like it was kind of cool because simultaneously like our goal for this short was like the running joke while we were shooting it was I was like, worst case scenario, this is like a 5-minute show reel for Holly. Like this is just 5 minutes of her like acting her heart out and going from like every emotion like possible. But like if we succeed, like we'll have that and like a story that people can connect with. And so like what was cool about it was that like we only really shot for one day, but in terms of like the prep of it all, like we had a whole day where we just like went through and like kind of just like basically like did like a soft shooting day where we like had the camera, we like were trying out frames, trying out different things, rehearsing. We had something that I really hope I can do again on the next short is we just had control. Thankfully we were shooting in Holly's apartments, like we'd controlled the space, which was like so helpful because like we could get in and we could try things and by the time we were actually shooting the short, the one day we actually shot, I feel like everyone was really prepared and knew what was going on and knew we had like a very solid groundwork to go off of, which was cool because then we could play even more on the actual one day of shooting. Like we could try things and experiment and do all sorts of stuff. But yeah, I feel like for both of us, we kind of came into this because I think Holly, correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like when we did this, you had just come off of Fear the Walking Dead, right?
Yeah, I was I had just shot it the first parts of it that summer, and I had just like kind of finished the first season I was in. So yeah, and also this is the room we shot it in. I don't know if you can tell. This is like a corkboard. I'm wearing I didn't even realize it. I'm wearing the same shirt today that I wore in the beginning.
That's so funny. But yeah, all that to say was like Holly had just come off this amazing show and all this kind of stuff, and so I think we were all kind of a little, I was, and I think Holly definitely respected it and got on board of like the idea of like let's just like experiment, like let's make something that feels very intentional and specific and figure out what that thing is together. That was like the best part of it, was just having Holly as like a not only a collaborator but like the lead of it, and just you know, being able to like figure out this thing together and kind of, like she said, find the tone throughout working it.
Well, you guys found a really good tone. I enjoyed it. I actually, when did you guys shoot this film? Was it during the pandemic or pre-pandemic?
We got really lucky. We shot right before the pandemic, but the joke was that we edited the movie and like basically finished it up, and then like a week later, like the pandemic like really started and like lockdowns. So it was like one of those things where we just like, yeah, we were like we had gotten really lucky with like the timing of it all, because the, you know, the terrible joke also is like in the year of 2020, when like it was really hard to shoot stuff, we had like released something in like February, you know, so all of us were like, we're good, like we made a short this year, like we've been productive, like we can, you know, not do anything for the rest of 2020. So yeah, it was like we got really lucky with the timing of it all, and it was fun too, because like rather than, you know, like when we like initially kind of, you know, finished it and started sending it to like a couple, you know, collaborators and friends, it was like it was still pretty early into the pandemic, so there wasn't like a mountain of content that people were like, I haven't seen like these 20 things yet, but like I'll get to them, you know. So I feel like timing wise we did okay.
Yeah. You got in early.
It's kind of cool to think though that we could have probably, if we wanted to, we could have probably shot it in my apartment during the pandemic, which is, you know, everyone started doing stuff like that.
That's the joke, is that everyone's like, oh cool, like a pandemic short. I was like, no, we actually did this before it was cool to like shoot like people alone in their apartments. Like we got ahead of that curve. But yeah.
Doing it before is cool. Are you gonna do it while it's cool? Are you guys working on anything right now during the pandemic?
Yeah, I mean, possibly. Yeah.
I think we're trying to figure out something new, because I feel like we're also just like trying to get the juices going of like we just want to make something else together. But yeah, I mean, I have like a couple. I have like a short that I wrote that like definitely needs to wait a little bit, like a couple more months before it's like kind of big. But yeah, there's definitely like stuff. You know, I feel like the terrible like, you know, LA answers, like it's all in development. You know, it's like stuff that we're just talking about and kind of getting into. But
I have a music video I want Barry to shoot. Yeah, I like to sing, and I want Barry to shoot a music video.
Yeah, Holly's a phenomenal musician. On top of like just like being like this incredible actress, she just like also casually was like, I'm gonna get into music, and then also crushed that. So yeah, we're trying to get a music video going for Holly soon, which would be just like a dream to work with her on.
Geez, I wanted to give you guys an opportunity to shout out anything you want, and if you want to shout out your music or band, like go ahead.
Please.
Well, I mean, we're still recording things, so like I was like, I want Barry to do this. It would be really fun. I mean, it's not ready to release it all yet, but I'm hoping to do like an EP this year, so we'll see. It'll be really fun.
It's a good time for it too. I feel like, you know, new art, especially art that has like a positive vibe to it, is very needed right now. So I'm happy to help however I can in that. That sounds like a blast. For sure.
Well, I just wanted to thank Barry Galprin and Holly Curran for joining us, as well as thank their sponsors, the Mocha Foundation and Mary L. Bianco, and the Film for Good through Bob and Christine Williams, as well as our sponsors. Thank you so much for joining us, you two.
Thank
you
for having us.
And have a great rest of your day.
Yeah, you too.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.